So it's very interesting. You go to Australia and you meet this guy and you're like, you're American. He goes, yes. And so it's kind of shocking that I have to go to Australia to bring him back to America. And what's very interesting with him is he's like a serial entrepreneur, owns tons of businesses in sort of the data management space, but also do tons of real estate deals. I know he's part of the Deal Titans. Several people invested in his deals lately in real estate, and really very sort of diversify. But also very rarely do you see like companies in Australia that do business all over the world, right? You see a lot of Americans or European companies. So he's in Australia, but does literally business all over the world, in Singapore and other parts as well, which is very, very different than everybody else. And be honest with you, sometimes it's hard for an American to move to Australia because of like the American, as you call it, because I get that a lot when I go in there. But he's done very, very well, and also very successful in flipping real estate in a market where it's not like here, like, you know, like to do a flip, it's millions and millions of dollars, and that's considered not a lot of money in comparison to America, where you can buy properties for $300,000. You know, in Australia, I don't think you can get a closet for $300,000 done. Everything is just so, especially Sydney, like the Sydney, Melbourne, but specifically Sydney, probably one of the most expensive sort of real estate market in the world. And things don't go down, they just keep going up. It's very interesting to real estate, which is very contrary to what I think. So please welcome all the way from Australia. I've allowed him back in the United States of America, Daniel Cox III.
JT.
So first, let's start off with sort of data management in terms of, first of all, what is data management for people who may not know, because it means a lot of different things to a lot of people. Some people it's cloud, some people it's analyzing data. What is it?
It's all of that, actually. So as you can well imagine, organizations, whether they're enterprise, public or private, whether they're governments like federal government or state or local councils, they collect data. They get data on information from you and I doing transactions or internally, right? So how do they manage that through all their different systems, whether it's a supply chain system, whether it's a customer relationship system, whether it's a platform like Facebook and integrations with Facebook or Amazon, etc. And Amazon's actually a really good example. Bezos will tell you right away that Amazon is not a book company. It's not a distribution company. It's a data company.
And that's where they made their money. Like, people think Amazon built their wealth with AWS.
Yeah.
That's where the money was built. It's not the shipping stuff like we do. I feel like my house is an Amazon fulfillment center.
That's it.
But it's really the data, right? And
it is.
And I think, is that the difference between very successful company versus maybe companies who never really scale, because they never truly understood that analyzing the data and how to put the data to make decisions by the data, not by guess and estimates, is the difference between becoming an extremely billion-dollar valuable company versus, you know, I had a good idea but never scaled.
Absolutely. Data is everything, but the presentation, the accuracy, the information that you can actually glean from that, the insights that executives can actually use to make decisions is absolutely important. And the number one trends today, right, are AI and cybersecurity, right? But they're nothing without accurate information underneath that.
Well, let me take a third thing. I mean, is something more important than data and AI is data governance.
Yes.
Right? You had your come with GDPR, which is like, you have to be compliant with opting in emails, you know, because the governance, if you get caught not having the proper governance laws, and sometimes you say, even though I live in Australia or another country, I need to be compliant in that country, because it can lead to millions and millions and millions of fines as well. So,
absolutely.
Right? And people don't want to give their data. You even have on your iPhone now, app not track, which is affecting companies like Meta or Google to be able to psychographic to the people rather than just spray and pray. Talk about the data governance.
Yeah, data governance is actually the practice of putting in policies and procedures, technology to do the data management. So things like, if you think about how we give information to organizations, well, you want to know whether or not those organizations are actually treating your data with proper security, with access, with ability to store that information properly. So as you can well imagine, there's lots of data hacks, all right? And if you know that that organization isn't properly securing information, you're not going to give it to them. So also the data governance allows us to do things like control the understanding of how we communicate outwardly from an organization. So like Microsoft's Purview, for instance, can actually do sentiment analysis on emails or IMs that you go out, that go to external, to make sure that the sentiment, the narrative of an organization is actually the right narrative for them. But also just the normal things like how do we actually collect? You saw my name, WDanielCoxIII. Yes, so my full name is William Daniel Cox III, but I always introduce myself as Dan Cox. It's a little easier. But
I've always wanted a name like JT Foxx the First.
Yeah.
Like I like that the third. Like it sounds very royal. Like I've never like hired a third. I mean,
well,
I like
you might
that.
be able to. My son is also the fourth, so yeah,
you guys are very creative, right? They'll be the fifth, the sixth.
He does go by William, but yes, my parents decided to go by my middle name. But if you look at that, I get duplicate emails from my normal suppliers like Amazon, right? And I know for a fact then they don't know who I am because they use different ways of understanding me. So am I one person in their system or 5 different people? And that's a big thing for organizations to understand.
What is it that you do that why companies will seek you out before? And I think what's different about you is there's 2 types of companies. Oops, I should have used you, which by the way is usually far more expensive. You saw earlier this year MGM cybersecurity hack. That cost them a lot of money. Yep. And there's a lot of things that happen where they don't really get disclosed to the public, right? But I know, and I've worked with several companies. So what is it that you do best for companies? You've won a lot of awards. People come to you first. Yep. It's ever changing. It changes every day. It's not like,
it is.
And so it's kind of like because the laws change, the technology changes, the way people legislate changes, the governance changes. So what is it that you do best for companies?
So we talk about being the clean data expert. So being able to provide that information at the right time for the right context to the right people, executives, to make decisions. So that might actually mean doing some work like making sure that a unique name, William Daniel Cox or Dan Cox, is the same person so that people can actually support you. One of our projects for the Northern Territory government was all about understanding the indigenous population. The indigenous population have a minimum of 2 legal aliases, one for the dry season, one for the wet season. And some tribes actually have 12. So how do you actually provide services to those types of individuals? So being able to do that, being able to know, especially if they come unconscious into a hospital, if you give them penicillin and kill them, that's not a great thing. So we have to make sure that when they do provide services, they know who they are. Other things like for enterprise clients, we do lots of efficiencies, a lot of automation, a lot of AI, right? In order to make sure that they are much more efficient across all kinds of
I think everyone understands how AI is probably the most transformative things that happened this year. I think the problem with all of you is how to use it in your business. That's like, what do I use it? And what now companies are doing is that if we don't somehow figure out how to use AI in our businesses to give us an edge, somebody else will. And I think you should all, and that's why a lot of people go to Daniel. Okay, this is my company, what can AI do? And then you do it. Because telling you what to do, you have no idea, right? It's kind of the recurring theme that's just easy, like we talked earlier with the doctor, the medical sales. It's a lot easier just to keep doing it this way because that's the way that I know it. And unfortunately, how you change is how you succeed. So you've reinvented yourself many times in many different businesses and done very well as well, spread out and actually happened to be an American in Australia, which is not easy at first, right? Because you're the American, but now you have a global company based out of Australia and you do all kinds of stuff. So it's been quite impressive to see who your clients are, which I've been very impressed, who you do business with, and how you're able to do so many different things at a high level as well, too, in a very difficult market as well. So, and that's why people seek you out from all over the world. And it's always a good feeling when other countries also kind of come in and say, hey, I want to do business with you because of your expertise in what you would need to do. And I'll put to you, maybe the first sort of right-brainer in that business that I actually understand what you said and didn't have to get technical, right? So you can actually bring us some non-technical people, but you also go very technical. And that's a skill sometimes, because when you speak to the owners of these businesses, they're not often technical, so they need to understand it from a non-technical point. If not, it gets very boring. So I'm happy you travel all the way back here to explain to us and obviously celebrate some of your amazing success and do business while you're here too as well. Thanks.
Absolutely, that's right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, JT.